Hello, everybody. I'm Brandee McHale. I'm the head of community investing and development at Citi, and I'm so pleased to be with you today, although virtually. I don't think this is going to in any way inhibit our conversation. I'm here today with Maurice Jones, who is the CEO and president of the Local Initiatives Support Corporation, one of the longest standing, most accomplished community development intermediaries here in the United States. Maurice and I have worked together for a long time, so I actually do feel, Maurice, like this will be a conversation, just for a chance for us to catch up. And it's a really important conversation for us to have. I think over the past few months and weeks, I think you would agree, we have all been on overdrive, responding to these unprecedented times that we're living in, making sure that we don't erode the gains that we've accomplished, while also trying to figure out the path that we need to chart for the road forward. So thank you, Maurice, for joining me. And why don't we start off and have you tell us about LISC and in particular your work to promote financial health.
Sure. Well, nice to be with you, Brandee, and hope you're well in this unprecedented time for us. Just to sort of repeat, LISC is a large community development and development finance organization. And most people know us for the capital that we invest in housing projects and small businesses and community facilities. But we actually have a lot of work that's in the promoting financial health space for individuals. And thanks to partners like Citi, we have a network of what we call financial opportunity centers around the country. And they are organizations that are community-based organizations that we invest in to enable them to do three things. They, through a coaching model, provide financial literacy coaching so folks can understand what they need to have a budget that balances, so they can wrestle debts to the ground, so they can get a credit score that will put them on a pathway to a relationship with a mainstream financial institution. Second piece, really case management around the things that workers need to be productive workers: housing, transportation, childcare. And then thirdly, it's workforce. It's the hard and soft skills you need to acquire and retain a livable wage job into a career. That work we're doing in 100 places around the country, urban and rural, and there's more work to be done for sure.
So 100 places, and those places are all at different points in how they've experienced COVID-19, but I would imagine that just about all of them have had to deal with stay-at-home orders, and to have your team switch to a remote environment at a time where I would imagine if we didn't have those stay-at-home orders, there would be a line out the door for the services that you provide. So you just talk a little bit about how you've adapted the business model and how you've overcome some of those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, our financial opportunity centers have moved from trying to work on the long-term attributes that people need to actually obtain and retain jobs that pay livable wages to more immediate needs. So our financial opportunity centers now, through the coaches now are helping people access unemployment insurance, access benefits like TANF, and access relief around LIHEAP and those kinds of benefits. And so you see a lot more of that. In addition to that, our financial opportunity centers are providing more immediate short-term relief payments and helping folks to pay their rent and those kinds of things. So you see them, particularly the coaches, really making sure that they can help people navigate through this tough period that we're in right now. In addition to that, you see the financial opportunity centers themselves learning to actually provide services remotely. And so we have had a fair number of requests for help with laptops so that the financial opportunity centers can actually provide coaching remotely. We also have had a fair number of requests from the financial opportunity centers on behalf of their clients who don't have internet access. So all of that is part and parcel of what the financial opportunity centers are doing to adjust to the moment. And I have to add, for us, the key is we've got incredibly flexible partners like Citi who have allowed us to repurpose the assistance that you gave us so that we can be relevant to what our financial opportunity centers need right now. And I thank you for that.
Well, we thank you. In fact, I say two things. One is I'm really struck by the move to digital. It's so interesting in the work that we do in communities. We've been big proponents that digital is a way to create access, but yet we've actually been behind in our work in thinking about how we digitize our service delivery models. So it's been interesting for me as a funder to think about what can we do to help to accelerate that, as you've been thinking a long time about how do you actually continue to get to scale and have models that can scale. So I think it's been an unfortunate moment to have to build the airplane while we're flying it, but it's been really amazing to see it. And I do also just want to point out, all of us in this country have talked about first responders and have looked at people on the front lines that have kept our country going and have acknowledged and thanked those first responders. But I think some of the most unsung heroes are folks like your financial coaches that are in the financial opportunity centers that said, no, I can't just stay home. I have a job to do. And it's not just about the immediate relief, but are really going to have to be there for the long haul as we shift into recovery. So first, thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you, but the coaches, the magic of the financial opportunity centers is the relationship between the coaches and the clients. And those coaches are like zealous lawyers on behalf of their clients. They learn what they have to learn in order to serve their clients. So now coaches are learning about unemployment insurance. They're learning about TANF. They're learning about the CARES Act. And they are mastering it so they can serve their clients. So you're right. I mean, the secret sauce of these financial opportunity centers, even in an age of digital delivery, digital revolution, is still the relationship between the coach and the client.
So for me, one of the most, the best days that I have doing this type of work is when you have the opportunity to actually go out into communities. And I want to shift a little bit and talk about what you see and what's happening on the ground in local places, real people. I can only imagine that we have the stress of a health crisis that turns into an economic crisis that is now turning into a social crisis. And that's as that social fabric erodes, how these three areas really come together. And so, while I've been so proud to go out, especially when I've had the chance to see the work up close and personal, and to talk to your clients in the financial opportunity centers, to really understand that, again, I really want to stress that you take a holistic view. It's not there's one silver bullet that's going to make the difference. It's the access to a job, it's housing, it's the extra education, it's childcare, it's all those pieces. And I know that LISC has single-handedly made a difference, a meaningful, measurable difference in breaking the cycle of poverty for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of families over the years. And while I know that, and it warms my heart, I'm troubled, and what kees me up at night is that there are so many that we're not reaching. And I want to actually make sure I get this fact right, because this is really what I think is at the heart of this. So this is what keeps me up at night, Maurice, and I'd love to hear your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Today, if average Black family wealth continues to grow at the same pace that it has over the past 3 decades. So forget the past 3 months, we'll put those aside. The past 30 years, it would now take Black families 228 years to amass the same amount of wealth that white families have right now. And what really bothers me about this is when I think about that 228 years, that is just 17 years shorter than the 245 year span that we had slavery in this country. And for Latino families, the situation is better, but it is still not where it should be. It would take 84 years for Latinx families to amass the same amount of wealth that white families have today. 84 years, we will be in the next millennial. We will be in the 3000s when that happens. So, I know you think about these trends, share your reaction and your thoughts to this.
Yeah, my reaction is it is a real instructive data point for just how much is left to be done if we really want to get at the determinants of wealth. And I think this is what we really need to be thinking about. I have said to folks that if we really want to really close and or eliminate this wealth gap, then we have to have the same approach to Black and brown folks in America and low income, low and moderate income neighborhoods in America that we took to Europe after World War II. We have to have a true Marshall Plan for these people and these communities. Because what you need if you're going to eliminate that kind of wealth gap is to understand that it means you've got to have quality schools for these children, quality daycare for these children. It means you have to have access to higher education. It means you have to have jobs. It means you have to have healthy food. You have to have a comprehensive and you have to have a long-term strategy for truly shrinking that wealth gap. We have not really had that in a sustained way in our country, focused and intentional on these racial wealth gaps yet. Now, I'm encouraged because we might be at a moment where we can actually persuade a broad enough coalition that this is a body of work that we should do. The other thing that I would say is what I'm encouraged by is we've seen our work. We know that actually our work actually can help individuals transform their lives and the lives of their communities. So it's not like we have to go guessing at what the components are. We just have to find a way to scale it. That takes a national commitment. We have not had that yet. I'm encouraged, though, that we may be on a moment, on a precipice where the country actually is ready to choose to have a Marshall Plan for these communities, for Black and brown folks in America that we can sustain for years. If we do that, I promise you all those eventualities that you mentioned, they will not come into fruition.
Yeah, it's interesting because I love what you said. We have tactics, we need scale, and we also need political will.
Absolutely.
But I also, thinking and about these issues, have thought about one thing that's also, I think, needs to be different. And I love this concept of the Marshall Plan. I think that's it's a precedent. We know it works. It's worked before, right? We know it works. Let's bring it out again, right? There are no new ideas. They're just ideas whose time has come.
That's right.
But I do think that we need to think about this not just as We are solving a problem. There's also the reality that our country's demographics are shifting. We will be a minority majority country by 2040. And so I don't think that this is also, we should have an abundance mindset. I heard that expression the other day, and it reminded me that that's actually also been at really the heart of what LISC has been doing, is to say, we're not, communities where there has been disinvestment doesn't mean that there's no opportunity. You know, if you had to think about places in this country where you've seen communities really turn around, you know, what are some of those places? Because I want us to all have hope that we can do something to reverse these trends. Where have you seen this work the best?
So a number of communities. First, let me go back to what you said. Yeah, I come at this from the perspective of this is our opportunity. There are, to your point, there are geniuses in every community in America. The question is how we partner with those geniuses to catalyze opportunity. And the real sort of invitation or demand is that's the only way we make America great. To your point, where have places actually turned around who've actually really done this work? Indianapolis, for me, is one of those key places, a place where the city and where the Lilly Foundation and where LISC and where community partners have come together, and they're building things they call great places, and they're investing in small businesses. And what Indy has done and what's going on in Indy right now is an incredible transformation that they've made in the last decade plus that I will tell you that they've been working on. And they would be one of the models that I would hold up as a place. And by the way, it's biracial, it's multiracial. You've got hospitals now getting into the game, but they had what you are actually suggesting. They had the political will, they had a really committed philanthropic sector, and they had a corporate sector that has come along, and they've got residents empowered in the work. That's a place that I would suggest to you that is well worth looking at. And then there are other places where you can actually go and find neighborhoods where folks really have turned around. West Philly, you can find neighborhoods that 10 years ago, you literally had abandoned lots. We've got these before and after pictures where you can see the pictures 15 years ago and the pictures now. And the difference is people coming together and committing to developing a place. This model is eminently doable. We really do have to sustain it and take it to another scale.
So I know that we can't see everybody, but I know that we are being viewed and joined by many innovators and being connected digitally. I just want to ask you for a moment, you know, what role does technology play in all of this? You know, are you finding that communities that get this right are also really leveraging tech innovations in a different way?
So what I'm finding now is a couple of things. One, communities that are getting it right now also have technology companies participating in the actual development journey. That's one. Number two, there's no question that technology is also a huge accelerator and enabler of this work. So you can't reach businesses or people if you can't reach them with Wi-Fi, then our ability to truly help folks progress will have serious limitations. And so what I'm finding is you have to have technology to do all of this work. And where you have technological gaps, rural America, it makes the work much, much harder. So part of the Marshall Plan, in my mind, is a commitment to having no households without access to the internet, no small businesses without access to the internet, no nonprofit social service providers without access to the internet. And right now, we don't have that.
You know, I do think, though, the past few weeks, over the past month, the recognition that the private sector has such an important role to play in solutions, both looking at how the private sector hires people, conducts business, engages in communities. Any advice for those of us that are in the private sector and listening about, you know, things that we can do that you think would make an immediate difference? And I will put a plug in to say, I think everybody, there's an opportunity for many more to partner with LISC. So if you want, you know, if you want to jump in, there's more than enough room for others.
I certainly was going to say that, but look, I think what private sector enterprises are, and what that means is understanding that your hiring really is powerful, and you really can create a pipeline that's inclusive of individuals from multiple communities to empower them and to help them get the skills they need and the wealth they need. Your procurement dollars, the businesses that you're using as suppliers, they matter, and you can make a difference. You can help build women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses and Latino-owned businesses and Black-owned businesses. You need to reach out and have a program that affirmatively brings them into your procurement practices. Your purchasing, you know, where you're purchasing goods and services from, these things matter. So yeah, I think, and to the credit of the folks that we are working with, I don't think this will be news to the corporate sector, to the private sector, because we see so many of them stepping up and embracing this. But it's hard to overstate the actual transformative power that the private sector has. And now, as we're going through this journey where racial justice and racial reconciliation is at the forefront of our nation's journey, the role that the private sector plays in both convening people and giving people spaces to be reconciled, and actually working with other coalitions on reform in the criminal justice system, and working on hiring folks and working on promoting folks. That is the transformative opportunity that the private sector has had for a while, and that I hope they will embrace with gusto moving forward. Without that, we will be limited in our progress, no question.
Yeah, well, I think it's also an interesting time. What you're saying is that we don't need to build something new. Use the existing rails that we have, just change the direction that we're going in, be more intentional about it.
Absolutely. This is a matter of us making the choice again, by the way, to really create a more perfect union and to really use the assets that we have to get there. And we have them. We are still the most powerful enterprise in the world. We can still do miraculous things. I know we can do it here. This is a matter of, you know, being hungry for it and being willing to work at it for a long time. And my hope is we're on the precipice of making that choice again.
Well, first of all, those words are both very exciting and also calming, because it again, we're not starting from a blank sheet of paper.
No,
we have ideas, we have things that work. So that's very calming for me. You know, I shared what I want to know. We have just a moment before we close out here. You know, I shared with you and everyone else what keeps me up at night, but I want to close by asking you the flip side of that question. What would help you sleep better at night now?
Yeah, I think it's what we're talking about. If we could truly get explicit commitments from the public sector and the private sector that we're going to adopt and pursue a Marshall Plan for our toughest parts of America, man, I know we can figure it out. That part I'm not worried about. I would sleep much better at night, both for those communities, but even more importantly, for the future greatness of this beloved country that we all, care about.
Well, I have to say, we need your organization more than ever. We need your voice. And I know that your voice today has inspired my own voice and many others. You are in 100 places. I think we need to be in 1,000 places. And then I think
agree.
we need to actually be grappling with the issue of what are you going to do because you actually don't need to be in business anymore. And I hope that day comes.
I look forward to that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So any last word of advice, and especially I want to bring it back to the Financial Opportunity Center model. If people are interested, want to learn more, want to get engaged, how can they reach out to you, your team?
They can reach out to us on www.lisc.org. And these financial opportunity centers work. And the other thing I should have said about them is, look, LISC doesn't operate any of these. We go out and find local community-based organizations and partner with and invest in them and help them to transform into a financial opportunity center. And we can't do it without Citi's help. So to your point, we have 100, we need 1,000. So come with us on this journey.
Great. Well, for everybody that was listening today, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you. So great to see you, Maurice.
You too.
We really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thank
Stay
you.
well.
All right. Thank you.